In the last video, we talked about break, continue, and pass statements in loops, and some application and some practice around that. In this video, we will look at some other aspects of working with loops in Python. Especially, we are going to focus on using the else block with loops, and we'll also look at one very important function that comes in very useful at times, and it is very versatile in terms of its application, which is enumerate function in loops. So we will focus on these two things, and we'll take some examples and we'll try to practice. So we'll try to use these two keywords along with loops in Python and do some practice on some questions. So let us talk about the else block. What does the else block do? Suppose I'm writing a loop here for some condition, and I'm saying maybe print something. Once this loop has executed without encountering any break statement or without encountering any error, and the entire loop is complete, we can choose to have a else block that will execute something that we want to show or that we want to do once the loop has finished all the iterations. So we can say print the loop completed successfully. The purpose of having a code block inside else here is to execute that block of code if the loop has completed without encountering any kind of break statement or any error. And if the loop is terminated with a break, then the else block will not be executed, it will be skipped. This allows the else block to serve as an indicator that all the iterations in the for loop have completed, and if you want to show some message or you want to continue depending on what logic you have written, and this often it comes in quite useful. So let us try to understand the combination of for loop along with else with some examples. Let us start with this example. We have been given a list of files and we want to find a file within this list, and we want to show a suitable message if the file is not found to the user. Now you must have seen these kind of examples when you're trying to search for any file in your laptop, where you write the name of the file that you look for, and the operating system goes and finds the file, and if the file is not found, they say that we could not find the file or this file does not exist, something like that. So we also want to implement this, and if the file is not found, then we want to show a suitable message. So for this else block can come in very useful. So let me make these files here, okay, and then let me print the files, and let me randomly choose one file that I want to search. So let me say file to look for. This is the file, and I want to search for this file. If the file is found, then I want to say that the file was found. But if the file was not found, then I want to say the file was not found. So how can we do this using a for loop? Let me say for file in files, if file is equal to file to look for, then I want to print the file was found. And once I have found the file, then I don't need to continue looking. So I can use a break statement here to completely cut off from the loop and come out. In case the file was not found, which means we did not encounter the break statement and we iterated through all the files, but this condition was never true. That means that the file we are looking for does not exist in the files. And in that case, we want to show a message. So what we can do is we can use the else block here, and we can say print the file was not found. Okay. Now you see, if we run this, you say it says the file was found, and I can maybe enter the name of the file to make it look a little bit better. I can say file. Sorry, I need to make it this way. It says the file employee data.csv was found. Suppose we are looking for a file that does not exist, maybe movies.mp4. So this file does not exist in the list of files. So if I look for this file, then we will never encounter this break statement because this condition will never be true. And in that case, we will go to the else block and this statement will be executed. Okay, it says the file was not found. I hope you understood the example. Let us take a few more examples to understand the use for else block. We have another example here. We have been given a list of numbers and we want to check if the list has any repeated elements. And for this, to solve this question, even if there is one repeated element, the answer to this question is true. So the first time we find a repeated element, that time itself we can break from the loop and we can show that yes, this list contains repeated elements. In case there are no repeated elements, in that case we can use a else block to show that there were no repeat elements found. So let us try to solve this question, and we will try to do this using for loop and while loop. So if you're confident, please pause the video here and try to write the code, and then you can compare your approach with my approach. So first we'll start with for loop. We'll say for number in numbers. Okay, and we are going to keep track of repeat elements. So let me make a list here. Let me say my list, and I'm going to append the number to the list. We are going to say my list dot append number, and we are going to append only if that number does not exist in my list anyways. So we are going to say if number not in my list, then I'm going to append. And if the number is already there in my list, in that case I want to print, let me say else, I want to print repeat number found. Okay, and let me also say which number was the repeat element. So let me use a f string here, and I'm going to say number. Okay, and once this happens, once we have found a repeat number, I'm going to break. In case this break does not is not executed, in that case I can have a else block here, and I can say print no repeat numbers were found. Okay, so in our example we have this list of numbers. Let me take this list of numbers and put it here, and we have repeat element. So we have 1 2 3 4 5, and then we have 3. So 3 is a repeat element. So if you want a walkthrough of the code, the first number will be 1. We are going to see whether the number is there in my list, and it is not in my list, so I'm going to append. Similarly, we'll have 2 3 4 and 5. When we again encounter the number 3, this condition is going to be false. So we are going to come in the else block, and we will say that repeat number found, which will be 3, and then we will break. So if we break, then this else block will not be executed. But if this condition is never true, okay, and all the numbers, when we see them, we are seeing them for the first time, and we are appending. So we'll run through the loops, and if we run through the loops without any error or without encountering any break, then we will come to the else block, and we will print no repeat numbers were found. I hope the flow is very clear now. And let me run this, and it says repeat number found 3. Let me add a 2 here, so it should say repeat number found 2. And let me remove all the duplicate numbers here. Let me make it 31, and let me make it 12. Let me make it 51, and let me make it 67, and let me make it 43. So in this case, now there are no repeat elements. Okay, one repeat element is here. Let me make it 28. So now there are no repeat elements. So if I run this, it will say no repeat numbers were found. So using else block, we can ensure that we have this message only when this block of code has executed without encountering any break or errors. Now let me try to write the same code using a while loop so that you get some practice. Again, for loop is more suitable here because we already know the list of numbers on which we want to iterate. But just for practice sake, let us try to write this using a while loop as well. So I'm going to say while, and I'm going to iterate on the index. So I'm going to say while index is less than length of numbers. Okay, and I will need to initialize the index to 0 because we will start with 0th index. So I'll say this, and there will be two breaking conditions. One breaking condition will be that if we have exhausted all the numbers in the list, that means we have checked all the numbers. Second breaking condition will be if we have found the number that repeats. So this is going to take care of the first breaking condition, and the second breaking condition will come now. I'm going to write first, I'm going to access the number. So number will be numbers, and I'm going to access it using the index, and then the same logic will come here. I will need to create a my list here. Okay, and if the number is not in my list, I'm going to append, otherwise I'm going to break the list. And once this is done, then I'm going to have a else block which will say print. I can copy from here. Okay, and I'm going to put it here. So, and we'll also need my initialize my list here. So I'll say my list as an empty list, and then toward in the end, let me just print, or let me not print anything. This code itself will print whether the repeat number was found or not found, and I have my numbers here. So let me take the numbers and paste it here. Okay, so let me run this and see. It says repeat number was found 1. There is some logical mistake. If the number not in my list, list.append, otherwise repeat number found. Okay, can you point out? Okay, can you point out the mistake that I made? I did not. I forgot to increase the value of index. So the value of index did not increase and we did not go to 2. We checked, we appended 1, and then because I did not increase the index in the next loop, again we checked for 1, and that's why we got repeat number found 1 here. So that was a bug in the code. So what do I need to do? I need to increase the value of index. So if the number is not in my list, then in this case I need to do I is equal to I plus 1. And if the number was found, then we are anyway going to break. Okay, so I think now this should work. Sorry, it's not. Sorry, it's not I, it's IND. Let me write it like this, and then let me run, and it says no repeat numbers were found. And let me introduce a repeat number. Let me say 28 here. Now we have 28 as a repeating number, and you see it says repeat number found 28. So this way we can write the same logic using while loop, and we can write it using for loop as well. Now one doubt you might have, that earlier when I talked about while loop, I used to write the code like this. Okay, I can also write it like this, while true, and then we can I told you we have two breaking conditions. So the first breaking condition was being handled here, but if we write true, then the second breaking condition has to be handled by me, and I have to write if IND is equal to length of numbers, then we need to break out of the loop. Okay, but I did not take this approach here, because if we encounter the break condition here when we have exhausted the list, which is a valid breakpoint, in that case this else block will not get executed. So for this use case, I avoided to use the break condition here, and I put the condition here in the while loop itself. You can try out both the approaches and you will find out. You see here it says repeat number found 28, but in case we don't have a repeat number, you see here nothing will get printed, because if there are no repeat numbers, in that case this block will be executed, and if this block is executed, we have a break condition here, and because of this break condition, this else will not come into picture. That's why instead of writing it this way, I have written this condition, which is index is less than, it's the same way of writing. We say index is less than length of numbers. This condition I have put here instead of true, so that we can avoid this break statement. If this is a little bit confusing, take some time to digest it, and try to write it on your own, and in that way you will be able to understand it a little bit better. But like I said, I am showing these two examples only because of practice purpose. Otherwise, this is the better way to solve this problem using a for loop. Let us do one more example, and then we will move on to the enumerate function. So this is a simple one. We have been given the scores for some students, marks of some students, and we want to check if all the students have passed the exam. And if all the students have passed the exam, then we want to print the message that all the students have passed the exam. So this is a fairly simple one. Please pause the video and try to solve this on your own. And now I'm going to show you the solution. So we can say for marks in, or let me say for score in student score, I need to initialize this variable here. Let me take it and write it here. Sorry. And I'm going to say for students in student scores, and if score, we'll need to have a passing mark as well. So let me also define a passing mark, and suppose the passing score is 40. Okay. So let me keep it this way. And I'm going to say if the score is less than passing score, in that case, I just want to say print, and I want to say that student has failed. So, or I'm just going to say student with marks. I'm going to, because we want to check if everyone has passed. So even if one person has failed, that is sufficient for us to break. So we don't have to check all the students. We just want to come out of the loop the moment we encounter the first student who has failed. So I'm going to say with score has failed. Okay, so this is the statement, and if this condition is never true, in that case we want to write a else loop, and we'll say print. Okay, I also need to add a break here, and if this break is never encountered, which means all the scores were more than passing score, in that case we will just say all the students have passed. Okay, so let me run this, and it says all the students have passed because the passing score is 40 and everyone is scored 40. But let me add one student who has scored 35 marks, and in that case it will say the student with marks 35 has failed. Now it is an assignment for you to try to write the same for loop using a while loop just for practice. But again, here, since we already know the length or the number of times we want to have this loop, for loop is more suitable here. Now let us talk about the enumerate function in loops. Now I'm using the word function, but we have not discussed functions yet. We will discuss that in the next module. But for now, just try to intuitively understand what does enumerate do. So let us try to again understand the need for enumerate by using an example, and then we will look at the syntax of enumerate. So let me take one example. Let me say that I have a nested list. So nested list is a list that is made up of list. I hope you are familiar with it by now. And we have this list, and the objective is to print uh, the information that is given in the list. So we have information about three fruits. We have apple. The name of the fruit is apple, and suppose we have 10 pieces of apple, and we have banana, and we have 5 pieces of banana, and we have orange, and we have 8 pieces of orange. Now, what I want to do is I want to print something like this. I want to say 1, which is the first fruit, apple, and then I want to say 10 pieces. Okay, and then I want to say 2, and I want to say banana, I want to say 5 pieces, and I want to say 3, and I want to say orange, I want to say 8 pieces. So this is the problem statement, and this is what we want to do. So try to solve this using loops, and let us see if we can do this using loops. Keep in mind that I want to print apple and 10, banana and 5, which is available to us. So we can iterate on this using a for loop, and we can take the first index of the list, we will get the fruit, and we will take the second index of the list, and we will get 10. But keep in mind, we also need this 1, 2, and 3. Okay, we also need these numbers. So how do we get that? Let us try to figure out a way by using for loops. Let us say for fruit in, let me call this fruits. Okay, let me remove this, and I'm going to call for fruit in fruits. I'll get the fruit, and I want to print fruit of 0, and I want to say, let me make it a f string. I want to say fruit of 0, and then I want to say how many pieces I want. So I can take fruit of 1, and I can say PCS. Okay, so I'm getting apple 10 pieces, banana 10 pieces, banana 5 pieces, and orange 8 pieces. But I also want to have the index, or something to do with the index, or a continuous counting, which will be 1, 2, and 3. How can I get that? I don't think we can get it here this way. There is an indirect way of doing, keeping a count here, and we can say count is equal to 1, and then we can say count here. Okay, this is a very indirect way of doing it, and then we can increase the value of count. We can say count is equal to count plus 1. Okay, that way we can get, we can put one dot here, so this way we can get it. But here again, this is a little bit complicated. Just to have this 1, 2, 3, I am adding a variable, I'm using a variable. So this is not a very elegant way of doing this. Let me copy the earlier code here just for your reference. So what is an alternate way of doing it? I told you that when we write for loops, we can write for loops by iterating on the values or by iterating on the index. So we can iterate on the index. We can iterate on the index. We can remove this, and instead of fruits, we can iterate on the index of fruits, and we can say like this. And then we can access fruit by saying fruits, and here we can, instead of fruit, let me say index, and fruits index. So we'll get fruit, and we will be able to access this. And let me remove this count variable. I don't want to have this extra thing here, and we are getting the same answer. But here we have index, so we can also use index here. Okay, so we are getting 0, 1, and 2 because apple's index was 0, banana index was 1, orange index was 2. But this is the programmatic way of counting. In real life, we start counting from 1. So instead of index, I can do index plus 1. Okay, so this is slightly elegant way of doing this, and fine, we are able to get the result here. Let me put one dot. Okay, so now what does enumerate do? In for loop, so far, the two ways that I showed you, in that we are either iterating on the value or we are iterating on the index. Enumerate will allow us to iterate on both at the same time. It will, when we run a loop on enumerate, we will get the index also, and we will get the value also, and it will save us the hassle of writing this one extra line. Of course, this is a simpler example, so this is just one line. So if you use enumerate, your code becomes more compact and better readable. So let us try and see what is enumerate. Enumerate is an inbuilt function in Python. Again, I'm going to talk about Python inbuilt functions in a while, but let us just see. a use of enumerate, just like how we have seen several other inbuilt functions. If we say enumerate and if we say for example fruits, okay, you see what happens. It is giving me again a generator object. Let me cast it into a list. You see what happens. It is giving me a list of tuples. It is giving me a list of tuples. And what does this tuple have? The first value of this tuple is the index, and the second value of this tuple is the actual value. So I'm getting index 0, 1, and 2. So now using this enumerate, I will be able to iterate. And when I iterate, I will have access of both the index and the value. So let me take this example. And if it is giving me, if it is throwing a tuple at me, I can use tuple unpacking to capture the index and the value. So here you see when I wrote this loop, I was capturing the value. When I wrote this loop, I was capturing the index. But now I'm going to capture index and value at the same time. So I'm going to say for index and value in fruits. And instead of writing fruits, I'm going to write enumerate fruits. Okay, so enumerate fruits is going to throw me tuple at a time, one tuple at a time. In that tuple, the first value is going to be index, this 0, which I will store in int, and the second value will be the actual value, which I will store in the value. So now I have index and value both, and what we can do is I can say I can use this line here now without the need for having this line. So let me just make small changes. Int plus 1, instead of value, let me just make it fruit so that it is better readable. And if I run this now, you see I'm getting index plus 1 here. And in enumerate, I can also decide where the counting is going to start. So by default, the counting will start from 0. But if I use one small function, small change here, and if I say in enumerate fruits, if I say start is equal to 1, then it is going, instead of starting from 0, it is going to start from 1. If I say start from 5, then it will start from 5 and it will be 5, 6, 7. But normally we start counting from 1, so I'm going to say 1 here. In that case, I don't have to do int plus 1 here. I can do a start is equal to 1 here, and you see we are able to get the answer. So I hope you got to understand what is the need for using enumerate and what is the way or what is the syntax to use enumerate. We use the keyword enumerate, we pass any iterable. When I say iterable, I mean any string or any list or any dictionary or any tuple or any set, and it will return the value from that iterable alongside the index. So we'll be able to access index and value at the same time, and we can write, it will make writing our code block easier when we need access to both index and value, just like how we needed in this example. So let us take a few examples to understand the need for enumerate, and then we will move forward. Let us look at another example. Here we have been given a list of cities: Mumbai, Delhi, Chennai, and Kolkata. And the requirement is for us to convert the city names into a dictionary where the key is the index and the value of the name of the city. So we need to basically create a dictionary where we will have the key as the index and the name of the city, Mumbai. And we will have to have like maybe one here and then Delhi, and so on. We need to create a dictionary like this. So let us see how we will be able to do that. We will need, so here this is the classic case where we need the index and we need the value, so we can use enumerate here. And see, whenever you are using enumerate, it is possible to write the same thing without enumerate, but using enumerate will make the code little bit better and it will make our lives easier. So let us say for index and city in enumerate cities. Okay, so I'll have access to city and index, but I need to create a dictionary. So let me say city dictionary, and I'm going to make it as an empty dictionary, and then I'm going to add the index in the city dictionary. So you know what is the way we can add a key to a dictionary. We'll say city dictionary and we will say index. Okay, and the value will be equal to city. And after doing this, if we look at city dictionary, there's something wrong. Okay, we don't have cities, so let me make cities here, and then if we see, we are able to have the city dictionary here, just like how the question is demanding. And you know about dictionary comprehension, so can we try to write this using dictionary comprehension? Yes, so let us do this. We can say index and city for index and city in enumerate. We can get the same answer by using a dictionary comprehension as well. We can store this in city dictionary, and then we can say city dictionary here. We got the same answer. If you want to write this without using enumerate, then what you can do is you can come here and you can say we'll remove enumerate here, and we'll have to access the city here from the city dictionary using index, and here I'll have to return city, and okay, sorry, we'll have to add range, and we'll have to add length here. So we are getting index, we don't have the value, so we have to write one extra line to get the value, and then we are getting the same answer. Something is wrong. Range, sorry, this is not city dictionary, this should be cities. Now we got the same answer. And there are multiple other ways also in which you can do this. You can create a list of tuples. From that list of tuples you can create dictionary, but again, now I hope you are already familiar, so no need to get into all those examples. We will look at some of the standard ways of doing it. So standard way of doing this is this way, or you can do it this way. Let us try to solve one more problem using enumerate. And the question is that we have been given a list of numbers, and we want to increase all even indexed elements in the list by 10. So even indexed element means second element, fourth element, sixth element, eighth element. So all those elements, zeroth element, zero is also even. So we will increase all those elements by 10. So let us try to solve this. We'll say for number in numbers, okay, and then if, okay, we need even index element, so we need the index of the element. So in that case I need to have index, and if I need index, then I have to put enumerate here. Now I have index and the number, and the condition is to increase even indexed number, so the index has to be even. So let me say if index modulus 2 equal to 0, okay, in that case I want to increase that element by 10. So I can, lists are mutable, so I will be able to change or update any element in a list. So let me say numbers of index, this has to be increased by 10. So this will become plus 10. Okay, another way of writing this is we can say this plus equal to 10. Okay, both the ways are correct for writing this. And let me run this, and then let me try numbers. What happens? Index is not defined. Why is index not defined? Because we chose the wrong value. That was a typo. Okay, so you can see what happened here. Okay, I need to define these numbers here. I think it's taking reference of numbers from above. So now if you do, you see the first element was 5, which has become 15. Second element was 7, it is 7. The third element was 2, but the index of this 2 is actually 2, so which is even, so this has become 12. 8 is the third element, so that is not affected, and then 10 has become 20. So we are able to increase all even index elements in the list by 10. Let us do one more example. So we have been given two lists. The first list is that of a name. So we have names of three people, Aman, Ravi, and Simran. And the second list is of scores, which is 85, 90, and 78. I think Aman scored 85 marks, Ravi scored 90 marks, Simran scored 78 marks. Now what we want to do is we want to iterate over these two loops and print the index with elements from both sides. So what is the desired result is I want Aman, and then I want to say 85. Then I want to say the second student is Ravi, and he has scored 90 marks, and the third student is Simran, and I want to say that she has scored 78 marks. So this way we want to print the results. So here we have two different lists. So in order to have Aman and 85 together, Ravi and 90 together, Simran and 78 together, we need to zip these two lists. In a previous, some other previous practice session, I've told you about zip function, which is again an inbuilt function in Python. So I'm going to use zip, and I'm going to say names and scores. Okay. So I need the index, I need the name, and I need the score. So name and score is available in these two lists, which I can get by using zip. If I do list, see what happened. Okay, I need to have names and scores defined. Okay, now if I do, you see I got tuple with Aman and 85, Ravi and 90, Simran and 78. So if I write a loop on this for name and scores in this, I can say print name and print scores. So we got Aman 85, Ravi 90, Simran 78, but this is not sufficient. I also want the index. So what I can do, I can take this whole thing and I can make this as enumerate. Okay, so once I do enumerate, so let me see this separately, what this is going to give us. So this is going to give us list of names and scores. What happened? Object is not readable. Okay, sorry, there was some mistake. Yeah, this is fine. So you see what we are getting. We are again getting a tuple in which the first element is the index and the second is a tuple. Okay, so we are going to do double tuple unpacking here. So when we do enumerate, the first value is going to be the index and second value is going to be student. Again, the second value is again going to be a tuple, so we need to access that tuple. We can say name and score. Let us see if that works. Okay, we are getting here, we need to print score. Okay, and you see this entire thing. So this is giving me a tuple which again consists of a tuple. So I am accessing this index here, and this thing is again a tuple. So I'm doing a tuple unpacking inside a tuple, and I'm saying accessing it as a tuple, and I'm storing it as name and score this way. Okay, so now if I do this, I'm able to get the same result, but I also want to print the index. So I'll say index here, and maybe I can use f string to do this in a better way. Let me put a dot here, and let me not put a comma. Let me put this. Let me remove the comma, and let me do this. Okay, so we are able to get the result that we wanted, but except that we don't want the counting to start from 0. So what we can do, either you can do a int plus 1 here, or here in enumerate we can say start is equal to 1. So now we got 1 2 3 Aman, Ravi and Simran, and you are able to see that we got the same result that we had earlier gotten. So here we are using f string to print this, and I just quickly want to show you some small tips and tricks around using f strings in Python. This has nothing to do with loops, but just something extra for you to know. So here, if we are printing this ind name and score, and suppose we want to add some alignment, so there are some small tricks in f string to be able to do that. So instead of name, in front of name, if I write this colon, and if I write a greater than symbol, which means right align, and if I write 10, so it is going to align this. Sorry, this is going to align this on the left hand side. And similarly for the score, if I want to align it, and if I say smaller comparison operator, and we can say this, maybe I can say 20. Sorry, we'll need to do left align. So you see, we will be able to align this text properly. And if you want to maybe have that styling, which you must have seen a lot in some books in the content and all, they have a dotted line. So if you want that, then we can do this. We can maybe add like this, and sorry, before this, and you'll see we'll have this dotted line, or here you can add it. It might look better here, and I can remove it from here. You can see we are seeing content, number, and then name, and then some dotted lines. Make it shorter, maybe like this. Okay, so this is some extra thing I just wanted to show you to make your text look better when you are printing it, especially when you're trying to present something in your notebook. So I hope all of you got an understanding of what is enumerate and what is the use for else block. Please practice all these questions on your own. If you understand what is enumerate, then you should be able to if you understand enumerate, and if you understand else block, and if you are well versed with everything that I've shown earlier, then you should be able to write the code for all these simple questions. So try them, and if you face any difficulty, please feel free to mention that in the comment box, and I will definitely try to help you out. So see you in the next video. Thank you.